Hi everybody, it's Brad again at Select Roses. It's June the 20th, so we've just come off a big heat wave. We've had a lot of early bloom this year, and some of your roses will be finished their first bloom cycle. So I want to walk through the garden, comment on some of them, and show you a few things that are caused by disease, a few things to worry about, a few things not to worry about. First one is this is a plant of Pope John Paul II, and we love it for its incredibly fragrant white roses. It's already finished its first flush. It will flush again, but I wanted to show you down here. You will sometimes see lower leaves that are a bit yellow like this. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's had black spot. This isn't black spot. It can be a tired leaf. It can be heat stress or something like that. When you see a little circular spot like that, that is likely a black spot. So in our climate, the best thing to do is plant resistant roses that don't get it badly. Or if you have the time and you have a small garden, you can just come along at this time of the year and pull off some of those yellow leaves. If you don't, they'll drop off and you can pick them up. We'll move along here, show you some roses that are proving to be quite good in this climate. South Africa is just amazing. It blooms forever. It's a brightly colored rose. Everybody that plants one loves South Africa. The foliage is nice and shiny. But this year, because mildew is a problem, there was a tiny bit of mildew on it. And some people say, oh, see, Brad, that's why I've given up growing roses. My question is, has it detracted from the overall look of the plant? No, it hasn't. The plant still looks great, so who cares that it has a little bit of mildew on it? I don't even worry about it. We don't spray for it. The other thing I wanted to show you, we pruned earlier in the season an old tree rose of ours. It was called Royal City Rose. It's one that will have a lot of mixture in bush form. That's it growing up there. If you refer back to some of our earlier videos, you'll see us pruning the Royal City Rose tree, and look at the amount of blooms that have come onto it. This is just finishing its first cycle, and it's setting up already for a next cycle. Because of the way the weather patterns have been, for the first time in its life, I see a little bit of mildew on the tips. So again, people say, what will you do? Nothing. The weather's going to change, the mildew will go away. It is no big concern. We don't want to promote the overuse of the pesticide here. So let's come down a little bit further in the garden. These beds are very old, so we're looking at roses that have been planted anywhere from the old Queen Elizabeth. She was planted in the 1980s and still doing nice for us. That one gets a little bit of disease, but I don't care. It's one of the oldest roses on the properties. But we'll come to this rose, which is a fantastic variety, and it's just finishing its first bloom cycle. Here's a nice look at it. This is easygoing. This is a sport of a rose called Living Easy, which is the orange one you'll see behind me. Now, you can see the second blooms that are coming up here. The first bloom is already finished right there. So if you want to be a tidy gardener, you just take your pruners and you clip that out of there. You notice we didn't count leaves. We didn't worry about if it's an outward facing leaf. Just to be tidy, we snip some of these off. And often people ask me, do I count down to 5 leaves? Do I look to an inside facing leaf? I don't do any of that. Most of the time I'm having a conversation with the person next to me as I'm doing it, and we just clip along. Now, take a look at this one up close. Here's the bloom that's finished and it's fallen. There's the new shoot coming up there. So you could clip down there if you want. You could still clip up to there, and what will happen is more blooms will come up even higher on the plant. The most important thing is not to let it go to seed. So don't pay attention to the inward, outward facing buds. Do a quick, easy job, just like that. Take off the spent blooms. The plant looks tidy. The big rage right now in roses is these so-called self-cleaning roses. I love the term. They use it in all across the US. They say, oh, they want the rose that cleans itself and it drops its petals. Well, if you look down there, that's what happens to self-cleaning roses. They drop them and they're all over the ground. I would much rather the flower linger on the plant so that I have a chance to grab that flower and cut it off like that. So give me a 10-day rose that I can clip off rather than a 5-day rose that throws itself on the ground any day. And that's what all my customers ask for. If you notice, it is actually pretty therapeutic doing this. And I want to take a look at this shoot. Here's one that's really doing its thing. You see the one bloom? We've only had one, but now look what's happening. 1 bloom, 2 blooms, 3 blooms, 4 is coming. So we'll remove that, and we're going to have now another whole cluster of bloom on here. Actually, on some of the floribundas like this one, the second blooming is going to be better. one of the reasons it's going to be better is that we have already fed them with our food. My garden helpers have gone along and mulched the bed, so we have a good thick layer of mulch under here. And when you put mulch down, you want to put a good couple inches. Some people put 3-4 inches of mulch. That makes a difference. We've just recently watered. That makes another huge difference. And I think that it's just the bushes, now that it's cooled off, get a little bit of a break, and they're sort of resetting for that second stage of bloom. So already at June the 20th, we're looking at the second flush coming. We'll have within, I would say, a couple weeks, these are going to be full of bloom again. Come down a little bit further. I want to show you how we're also not afraid to throw a few perennials in the garden. I love delphiniums, and because we didn't have a lot of rain this year, they're standing up looking great. In behind there is a big patch of lilies. I bought those from my friend Pam that has Erickson's Daylily Gardens. And there's some old bushes here. Look down at the base of this one. You see how old this plant is? This is, I think, about a 15-year-old bush. And when we're doing our spring pruning, we'll show you that next year, we start deciding on which canes to keep and which canes to remove. Ones like this, we'll probably look at and say, hey, that only produced a couple inside shoots, so this cane is going to be cut out right down to there, and we'll leave the stronger canes. But this time of the year, your rose bush will naturally still produce some basal canes down from the base of the plant. That's the strong new growth. And if you refer back to the video of planting our anniversary rose, we showed you those nice basal canes. Those are produced quite easily on a rose with good understock like multiflora. When you get own root roses, it's a little more difficult to get the basal breaks on them, but sometimes just a good hard pruning will promote the low shoots. You could take a rose bush like this at the right time of the year, say you were renovating the bed, and we could cut this whole thing off at 6 inches, just like that, and it would come back and it would still be blooming fine. But generally we do a little bit lighter pruning. Come on over to this side. I want to show you the original version. This is Living Easy. So Living Easy was introduced under the name Fellowship when it first came out in England, and then it came over to the US and they gave it another name. Still a nice name, and it's just a fantastic rose. We love the shiny foliage. We love how many blooms it makes. They hold on a pretty good amount of time. I love the different shades. When I choose to pick them, I would take out the middle one like this, and if you have enough plants, you can come along and pick whole clusters of bloom, put it in your vase. And if you'll notice, we have the two mixed together here. This is actually one rose bush, and what happened here is it mutated back to the original bush, and then it sported to the other one, which is, I'm going to bend this over, that's a nice truss of it. This is the sport, and when it's sport, that's a color mutation. Everything else is identical, except this is the one that is called Easygoing. I love both of it. One of our other videos had my dad and I planting a rose, and this is the new one that we started with. So we had a bush that failed us in the end here. You can look down. It's half the size of the other ones, but it's still producing, which we showed you, the lower basal canes right down below. You notice that the foliage on it is a beautiful rich green. We did a great planting job. This will take a season to catch up to the rest of the bushes, especially since it's down at the end of the bed. It's not getting any morning sun at all. So we'll baby this one a little bit, make sure there's a soaker hose down there, it's getting enough water. If I really wanted to push the growth on the new rose, the best thing I could do would be to cut off all the blooms. Every time it's at bloom, just cut it off so that the energy is going into building the plant. But we want to enjoy the bloom, so who cares if it happens to be on a shorter plant. We've also fallen in love with the New Zealand delphiniums. So in behind there is some little babies, and we'll have Alana, our amazing photographer, videographer, come over here and show you our baby delphiniums. Those are going to be nice 5-foot plants next year, full of beautiful lavender to purple colored blooms. Look at the age of some of these bushes that we have down here. I think some of these might be 15, 20 years old. For a modern rose, if you're getting a 15, 20 year run, I think they've paid their rent. So that's why we don't mind replacing the odd one now. And again, remember, as long as you keep deadheading them, you'll encourage them to bloom. If you're the type of person that says, hey, I don't have time to deadhead and do any of that, do you know what? The rose is going to do it for you. There's the new shoot there. We see another one here, Alana, coming on the other side. So even if we don't take off the top bloom, look at this one up here. Even if we don't take it off, a rose wants to bloom. If you plant a rose bush in good soil, plenty of sunshine, remember the main thing that plant wants to do for you is bloom. Start with a good quality plant, start with a good variety that's meant for your area, and you won't have any problems at all. Come out and see us one day soon. We only have until July 15th and we're done for the season. Thank you very much.